We nearly knocked the Pies off last year. Can we do it on Saturday? Sonja definitely thinks so.
Under pressure, but it's picked up by Archer again. He tries to crash through the pack. He does. He got through Maxwell, and he has a flying shot for goals. And that is a magnificent Glenn Archer goal. 2 in a minute to the man who was...
What's happening, guys? Welcome back to Further North. Big game. Collingwood, a bit scary. But hey, we nearly beat them last year, and a lot of people are saying that. Doesn't make me feel much better, though, to be honest with you. But welcome back. We've got Nicholas from Pies Nation coming on to preview the game. Awesome guy, lots of insight, a lot of cool Pies North chat in that. Stick around for that. And then the usual, live team reaction, a little bit of news, couple of tips, and then we'll get you guys out of here. So I'm going to jump straight into that. For those on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment. Really, really awesome, the little community we're building on there. And YouTube's doing quite well for me. So if you want to support the show, subscribing, watching the videos, comments and likes, things like that are fantastic. All right, let's get into the interview. We'll see you guys here soon. I'm terrified for this weekend. I'm not going to lie. We're coming up against the Pies, who I think are the best in the comp at the moment. But hey, we've got Nicholas here, one of the biggest Pies fan I know. Thanks for jumping on, mate. Let us know what you do and what qualifies you to be on the pod and a massive, massive Pies fan.
Nah, thank you for having me, Josh. You say you're nervous. I remember you having the same feelings this time 12 months ago, and we all know how our match turned out. So.
Let me grieve, mate. Too soon.
Yes, well, for those that don't know me, I'm part of the Pies Nation podcast and have been for the last 7 years. We're not far away from episode number 200.
Wow.
And it's been a fantastic journey to be a part of. We've started very small, just a humble little studio, just on audio. We've branched out quite significantly now, and we're on video and on YouTube, TikTok. It's been a terrific rise, and I've been fortunate to share some pretty incredible episodes with some of my closest mates, who I call some of my brothers now. And it's been really fun to be a part of, and the way that Collingwood have been over the last few years certainly does help making a podcast each and every week. We've been fortunate to have some great guests on, some past and present players, and I wouldn't do anything else if I had the opportunity to. It's just been a joy, and hopefully we can keep it going for many years to come. But yes, part of the podcasting venture, just as you are, Josh. So it's been great to be involved.
Well, we're small time down here compared to you guys. It's sort of the pinnacle at the moment. Massive clubs deserve massive pods, mate. And I guess, look, the fan base is there, and you've done an unreal sort of job. Who knows? I don't know if North's ever going to grow to those sort of heights. We might keep it small and humble, sort of local stuff around here. But no, what you guys do is awesome, and it's sort of, the pinnacle of podcasting in the fan creator space, I guess. But look, speaking of the pinnacle, the Pies, mate, I think they're. Okay, I'm going to say something that a lot of people are going to hate. Outside of North, who don't make me very happy every week except for against the Tigers, the Pies are my favourite team to watch at the moment. And I don't like saying it, but the midfield connection and the link up through there is like something I haven't really seen very often. I watch every single game, but I've watched a lot of Pies. Obviously, they're always on prime time. So I've watched a lot of Pies this year. And, the game against Carlton where it was scrappy and wet, but the skills still shone through so well, especially through the midfield. And, the game against Brisbane as well, I tipped the Pies pretty confidently in that. And some of the link up between side bottoms and Pendlebury's and Dacos is in that midfield. Even when Bobby Hill goes in there, it's unbelievable. What was your expectation, I guess, going into the year, and how are you feeling right now?
Well, I think our expectation was sort of dictated by a lot of outside noise suggesting that this was our final crack at it. We had a very old list. We've brought in some of these players with on big money, and the expectation from them was that we would be competing and contending. And then after round zero, those thoughts changed pretty quickly when we got pumped by the Giants, and it turned into, well, how much more can they actually get out of these players? Can we expect the Pies to even be around the mark? And then we came back home, and it's been an incredible last couple of months to watch. I've been pleasantly surprised by how impressive we have been on the footy field, and not the fact that we have been playing so well, but the fact that we have been able to see some of these older players like a Scott Pendlebury and a Still Sidebottom, whose career was arguably called curtains 12 months ago, the way they've been able to have an impact on this side. Jeremy Howe's another one who's had an underrated season and has been superb in defence. And yeah, look, it's been quite nice. I think we were certainly expecting as a supporter base to be a contending side in 2025, knowing what the stakes were and knowing that we were, the oldest side on record, I believe, statistically as well.
Yeah, I think you're
So
right.
there was so much to sort of ponder about how that would look like. And I think to be top of the ladder after round 10 has blown all of our expectations because we know there's a lot of really good sides in it. And I think on top of that, we've had a very difficult fixture, which is, an expectation with Collingwood as well, despite the fact that we finished ninth last year. But we've played both grand finalists away from home. We've already had a few interstate trips under our belt, a lot of finalists. I think this Adelaide game was the first one where we played a side that finished bottom 5 or 6 last year or thereabouts. Even might not have even got to that point yet. So it's been wonderful to see, and we're now in a very luxurious position where we can start to manage players and work through this next little patch where we don't really have to leave the state for a little bit. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing to complain about. It's almost been a flawless couple of months, but we also need to be pretty cautious of what's to come and to ensure that we're not, I guess, lowering our efforts against some sides who might not be in the running this year. And we know what that can turn into if we're not on our game, as we saw with this corresponding match 12 months ago. Josh, it's certainly one that's been etched in my memory for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wasn't expecting much, and I guess, I don't know if I'm expecting anything really different next week, but that was such a crazy game. I mean, I was there, and, at halftime, I remember getting a bunch of North fans together. We were sitting in Bay 29, and we try and do a little meetup sometimes when we do that, and we were all just standing there 50-odd points up saying, it's not enough points. It's absolutely not enough, because if we can put 50 on the Pies in a half, they can put 70 on us in a half. You know what I mean? So, yeah, look, I weirdly, I walked away from that game not actually being that upset. I mean, obviously how the game played out, yes, but if someone told me that we would lose by points to the Pies before that game, I would have been like, fantastic. And I know there's context within that game, but it showed me that something is coming. And then, I guess that we still looked at performances like that going into this season, where we could be like, look what we did there, look what we did in this game. We had a much better back half of the season last year. And in classic North Melbourne fashion, it doesn't seem to carry over very well. Did you watch any of the game against the Tigers for us?
Yeah, I had it. I was working, but I did have it on in the background, and I was able to watch and listen to it in periods. I have to admit, I did tip Richmond coming into the match.
Mate,
but
come on.
yeah, I know. But the thing that stood out for me was, I think, and this is only from an outsider's point of view, I'm sure you'll be able to give a bit more analysis into it, but I think one thing that North have not exactly been able to accomplish in these games is finishing them strongly. And there was a lot of talk after the match against Brisbane and the opportunities that came from that to salvage 4 points rather than 2, even though that getting a draw against the reigning premiers is no doubt an incredible effort. I think what impressed me the most about your team on Sunday was just the fact that they were making a bit more conscious effort to take their time a touch and make the right call. And some of the plays that some of your players had in that final term was absolutely outstanding. And I don't want to take anything away from what the Roos were able to achieve, because I think it's a significant part of what your season has been. You've had so many chances over the last month to get over the line, and I'm sure it's been very frustrating to watch it fall down the way it has. So a sense of relief, I'm sure, once the siren went, that you were able to be on the better end of a tight result like that. But I just think the fact that you could prove that you can finish these close encounters and that you don't let a lead slip and you keep it that way throughout the afternoon, and you're able to fight your way back and have some really important moments that ensured you were able to get the win. Tell me what it, I guess, is like a little bit from your end about how, knowing that you've been so close in the last few weeks and it's been detrimental, I'm sure, to the side in terms of what they can achieve mentally, and then your nerves going into the last quarter must have been pretty stressful. But did you feel like you had what it took to get over the line in that last quarter, despite knowing that you probably didn't have that ability to finish games in the past?
Honestly, not really. I think I'm at a point now for my club where I need them to show me instead of me just blindly believing but getting the same results. And you're right with what you said about the game where, when we did put a couple of passages of play together, we did look incredibly threatening. I mean, the first quarter for us was really, really good. And ultimately that quarter ended up winning us the game. But what I think we've done well in the last 4 weeks was be able to drag teams down to our level a little bit and make the game super scrappy. I think yesterday was the record for stoppages in a game, definitely this season, but I might have been ever or something. There was 130 odd or something, 120 odd
Yeah,
stoppages,
wow.
maybe 116 or something off the top of my head. Just an incredible amount of stoppages. So, I know the Tigers are basically almost on par of where we're at. You can debate if we got maybe more talent, but they've got more wins at this stage of the season. So you can go back and forth with that. But, two pretty even teams. We did the same thing where we make the game scrappy and we try and bring the team down to our level, and then we can maybe expose a little bit. And I think as a North fan, you don't expect to win every single week. It's a very, very different world we live in down here. So
Yes.
it's the fact that we've kept the games close has been a big win for us. And some sides of the fan base is like, well, if you don't win, it doesn't matter. I fall a little bit into the opposite category because I feel like I know where we're at. We are a very, very bad side, and I do think it's going to be 3 to 5 years until we make the finals. But as long as once we get there, it's consistent and we can
Yeah.
remain there for a period of time, I think I'm happy with that. So yeah, I was terrified going into that last quarter, mate. I definitely felt with first quarter being fantastic, second quarter being abysmal, third quarter we sort of went neck and neck. I didn't believe. I won't lie to anybody here, but you know, just the people around me, I'm so sorry for all the things I was throwing out of that game because I was not doing well. But I'm glad we got it. We gritted it out. It probably wasn't the way I would have liked to win the game, but when you're where we're at, you can't complain with any sort of win. And we did make a comment on the pod yesterday where not every victory is going to be a clean victory. Sometimes if a side like Collingwood, like you guys have done perennially, is sort of give up some leads, maybe not this year, but give up leads and claw your way back and sort of win late and find ways to win. And it's not necessarily the prettiest way, but you got over the line regardless. I think, 2 years ago, you were doing that nearly every single game. So, it wasn't pretty, but our defense has been so much better the last month, and we're so much improved in that area. And Toby Pink takes a massive mark at the end of the game and almost ices it for us. I guess the negative there is Richmond were pumping it in for what felt like the entire quarter, but I'm absolutely not going to complain with it. Let's look at the Pies a little bit. What's something that you think you're doing really, really well? Like what's changed from the 10th place finish last year to this year? Are you doing something game plan wise, or is there a specific player that's upped his game?
Well, I'll keep it towards a similar topic, but it has been the ability to finish games in a sense. You mentioned before about how many of our wins in that 22-23 period were having to come from big margins at halftime, three-quarter time to go on and get the job done. We've hardly been in a close encounter in 2025. Obviously, there's been a couple here and there, and we've been on the right and wrong end of those results, but ability to put 3-4 quarter efforts and really put sides to the sword throughout the whole match has been something that's mighty impressive, and what gives me and probably other Collingwood supporters an inkling that, hey, there's something different about this team. Yes, there's a lot of 2023 about it, but we seem more dominant, more ruthless when we're going in each and every week. I look at some of those massive wins against Port Adelaide as a prime example of that, getting the job done against Sydney, putting the foot down against Brisbane. The fact that we've not just let the margin creep towards that single-digit margin and having to fight hard in the last quarter again has put us in a luxurious position management-wise, and I think that's been really strong. The other thing with that has just been our team defence, and it's something we've always prided ourselves on as a team, and 2023 will highlight that, but there are a lot of holes that were exposed in our backline last year, and it took us a while to adjust, and there's been a lot of theories about why that may have been the case. Big one being Nathan Murphy's early medical retirement, causing that structure to have to shift a little bit. But I also just think that we've had a backline that's had individuals improve in their own right. We've got Darcy Moore back to playing in all-Australian form. Jeremy Howe's having another resurgence. I think Isaac Quain has improved quite significantly. Braden Maynard really stepped up to the mantle, standing in as captain, particularly on Saturday against Adelaide. And you bring in a Dan Houston, a Harry Perryman, Josh Dacos, has gone back into half-back now and is able to play a role as that rebound 50 type of player. So I think those particular facets of our game have been very, very impressive. And I think the stat is that since the start of 24, any team that's kicked 85 or less points haven't been able to defeat us when they come up against us. So that might be the magic number you sort of have to strive towards on Saturday night. But I think regardless, we're just fine-tuning aspects of our game that have always been there, but it's all really starting to click now. I think that's been a big reason as to why we're sitting on top of the table at the moment, mate.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I said, Collingwood have really impressed me with the way they've played. I actually like watching them play. I think it's a good mix of, link up footy and really good ball movement, but there's toughness and there's grit there as well. Like you'll create a contest and you'll win contest as well. And that's something I think like the Lions and maybe the Hawks and teams like that do lack, is that physical. It's very keepings off football. It's almost mosquito fleet football where you handball, run. No one touches anyone and they sort of just try and carve a team up instead of almost like what our game was on the weekend against the Tigers. Like, stoppages, gritty, tough, physical football. Yeah. I think you found both sides of that really, really well. If there's one area of the pies that you think North can take advantage of, what do you think it would be? Have you got a weakness that you think we might be able to expose, or is it just locked in down there?
Yeah, it's a good one because I think, and again, I don't want to regurgitate too much of what you said because you've made some great points, but I'm nervous about us stooping to your level a little bit because you said you're a team that's capable of it, and we saw it last year where you were able to really not only bring us down to your level, but punish us on turnover, and we just struggled to have that energy. And I still don't know how we found it in that second half to bring it back, not to keep bringing that game up. But
fine,
the point, the point I'm sort of making here is that there have been small instances this year where sides have been able to take control of the contest and play their football. I look at the Freo game only a couple of weeks ago as a prime example of that, where they're a slow, very boring team to watch, but we had to step back a little bit and they were able to take full advantage. And I think they kicked their entire score against St Kilda against us in the first quarter, and it sort of gave us a bit of a jolt, like, hey, what's going on here? Probably the other aspect I feel like is in the middle. The last 2 weeks particularly, we have been down significantly on clearances, and we've had to rely a lot on our team defence to ensure that any inside 50 entries from the opposition are not effective, or they're going to space, or they're going to a contest where we have the numbers in our favour. So it's one thing, I guess, to win the clearances, which I know that you've got plenty of midfielders in there that are capable of doing so. But if you're able to lock the ball inside our defensive 50 and generate quick scores from it, like you did again last year, I think that's where you may be able to take a bit of our game away because, yes, we're strong and we're disciplined in the back line and we can transition really well and we score a lot of our points from intercepts and turnover, but very hard to do that if you're able to retain possession and kick and make the most of the opportunities. I think I can't remember the exact stats, but I think both Fremantle and Adelaide failed to convert more than 30% of their inside 50s into scores. We were able to convert over 45% on both occasions. So we might not be getting as many clearances or as many inside 50s as the opposition, but we're making the most of our chances, whilst other sides aren't at this point in time. But if North can do that, and they do make the most of their inside 50 entries, because you may get a bit with the way that we're playing and the fact that we're giving up a lot of clearance as well, that might just be something that gives you a bit of a hope coming into Saturday night.
Yeah, well, one of my mates who does the podcast with me sometimes, Joel, who did the Richmond post game with me, he was saying something similar actually, where the way I think we can get a hold of you guys is maybe physicality in the middle. I think you're a really good physical side sort of in your forward line and your back line, but what we lack in cleanliness, we make up for in big bodies and in and under and tackling, especially with Wardlaw and LDU, has been heavily criticised this year. And I think, you look at the numbers and it looks pretty similar to the year before, but you watch the games, it doesn't feel as impactful. But I think the reason, and I think that was his best game for the year on the weekend against the Tigers, but his contested work has gone to another level, which he wasn't doing the year before, but his outside game has maybe suffered a little bit from that, but it doesn't mean he's not being effective in different ways. And I look at the midfield, like Parker, Simpkin puts his head over everything. Powell's a good tackler. Wardlaw and LDU, and are they good ball users? Not necessarily, but if we can win that contest at ground level and the physicality and get it forward with guys like Paul Curtis coming back, Zerha coming off a fantastic game, Darling had a great game as well, and you've got the marking target in Finbar and Larkey up there. Look, that's the only way I could maybe see us doing something in this game. Our defense is going to be really, really tested. We lack a lot of smaller defenders right now. Bobby Hill could kick basically as many as he wants. Jamie Elliott as well could have an absolute field day with Archer out. And lots of our sort of options back there not being there. McDonald and Riley Hardiman are sort of the only two guys there. And I don't necessarily see them as like lockdown players with Archer out. So our defense has held up really well, but it scares me against the Pies. But if we can keep that defensive structure and bully you in the middle and just get it forward and, like you said, lock it in there a little bit, with Paul Curtis back, you never know. But I think that's the stars align sort of thing, because, like I said, I do rate this Pies side so high, and I think it's the Pies. There's a gap. And I said this a few weeks ago. I really think there's a gap between Brisbane and Collingwood, which are those two top teams at the moment. And I'm watching Brisbane play, and they're getting the results, but they haven't looked great. They seem to get over the line instead of put their foot down, where I think Collingwood are the only team in the league that are just better than everybody convincingly at the moment. And, I really believe that. And then they've gone on to draw with us and then lose on the weekend as well to the Ds. Yeah. So, it sort of has become true with what I've felt about the Lions, where they're winning, but I haven't watched it and gone, they're really, really good. So it's going to be an interesting game. What is an area where you think you can take advantage of North? And give me something different than the key defenders, because that's what everybody says. And I want something a little bit different, because we got Toby Pink and we're not scared of you anymore.
Well, it's fascinating, because I think when I would usually answer this question when chatting to opposition, the first thing I'd point to is I think the ruck battle is where we can really lock you down, because Darcy Cameron's having an unbelievable season, and it's incredible that he finished second in our Copeland Trophy last year, yet he's somehow having a better year. And I think he's one of those rare rucks that can dominate both in those contests but also around the ground. He's been a terrific intercept marker for us, and that's been proven in recent weeks. He can go up forward and hit the scoreboard, and he just takes those important contested marks down the line. And I'd say 9 times out of 10, that's probably the way we can sort of utilise him to try and win the game. But you've got one of the best rucks, if not the best ruckman in the competition, and he's been very handy for my Supercoach. So thank you very much for that, Tristan. But I don't think I can lean towards that. I think that's going to be such a fascinating contest, and that battle might determine where things end up in the midfield. But I guess, team defense is what's been our strong suit so far in 2025, and Paul Curtis coming back does frighten me a little bit, because I think he's been one of the most underrated players in the competition, has been terrific, and an absolute disgrace that he was suspended. I'm sure that's a topic. Started, mate. Sure, that's a topic for another day. But if we can just keep the pressure up in that back line, I feel confident enough that we can continue to turn those intercepts and those turnovers that we get from our defensive half into scores, as we've been doing quite a bit throughout the season. And that's where I'll be hoping that we can continue to put the foot down and ensure that that your Larkies and a few others aren't taking those marks when you're going deep inside 50, and that if the ball does get brought to ground, that the Quainers and the Maynards and the Josh Dacos are swooping in to ensure that we're getting it out of there very quickly. And I think we can get on top of you in that facet of the game, and that's, as I said, going to drive a lot of our scores. And I think that's probably where I'll be leaning towards on that front. I might reverse the question about you. Is there a part of our game that you feel like you can slightly get a hold of? I mean, we talked a lot about the clearance battle. I'm sure that's a big part of it, but is there anywhere else you're searching in terms of just getting those little wins?
Not really, to be honest. I'm trying to think about it now, and our forward line, even with Paul Curtis back, some of the medium to small defenders you just named, I just don't know how we get loose from them. I mean, Is Maynard your sort of only sort of lockdown defender? Obviously, Dacos isn't going to play that role, and Quainer feels like a more running half back. I mean, Zerha is the sort of player that he's a bit of a matchup nightmare because if he's on someone smaller, he'll bully him, and if he's on someone taller, he'll be much better at ground level. And Paul Curtis does play that similar role. So if you want me to maybe find something else, it's one of those guys getting off the chain. I've said this a few times this year, but I think they're both a bit of a matchup nightmare. And if one of them has a big day, it might keep us in it or something like that. But what you said is my main concern with the skills and the transition. On the outside, I just don't know how we defend your outside players. In and under the contest, I think we can win that. But on the outside, I don't know how we'll defend the run and carry for you. But yeah, look, it maybe Zerha and Curtis coming back. If one of those guys could be a little bit of a matchup nightmare, and say Maynard goes to Zerha, who would you be playing on Paul Curtis?
Yeah, well, it might have to be someone like a Quainer or potentially even a Dan Houston, and maybe just make Curtis a little bit more accountable when Dan does start to stream off half back. We're fortunate we've got a few options in that sort of realm. That's not to say that I wouldn't be putting much attention the other way, because if the clearance count isn't going our way, that's going to force Dan, who is a terrific defender in his own right, I'm sure, but he's just going to have to force him to do a little bit of work, and that might mean that a Jeremy Howe has to come off his man a little bit more to impact the contest. And yeah, it's going to make things very, very difficult if a Curtis and a few others get off the chain. Zerha, I think, kicked 3 and had 20, and then Larky kicked 5 when we played each other last year. So don't know if we're going to have Darcy Moore back this week. We're hoping that he can find himself back into the side. But look, Billy Frampton's been very serviceable for us over the last few weeks, so I would have no issues in having him take the mantle again. But I want to talk about Finbar, because
I was going to say we're going with 3 tools at the moment. So yeah,
I can't remember from the conversation we had last year. He's my favourite North player. I've always got a soft spot for him because he's a Northern boy, and I was absolutely stoked to see him debut a few weeks ago. I can't believe they made him play on the test, and then that would have been such a fairy tale. I love what Finbar brings to the table, and he's certainly got the presence about him inside the forward half. So he's going to have be someone that we're going to have to put a little bit of attention to as well. But also just great to see him get his shot. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, everyone loves him. He's cult hero status even before, he played a game. Big mustache, big boy, undrafted, all that sort of stuff. So, that they're the sort of players that we get around. But, it is interesting at the moment. He had a really good game against the Tigers. His kicking is absolutely terrifying, mate. I won't lie to you. I mean, the first goal that he kicked, well taken, but nothing confident about the run up. And then the second one, I'm like, I just don't know. I don't feel good about it. But the set of hands on him is undeniable. And he showed it, even at ground level, his tackling pressure was really good, and won a holding the ball free kick, which I think was his first goal. So, no, look, we all love Finbar, and maybe he can be the match winner, mate. Who knows? And maybe if Finbar kicks the goal to win the game against the Pies, at least that'll sit a little bit easier with you because you love him so much. So, or maybe not. You're totally right.
We'll see.
Give us a tip and give us a margin for this game.
All right. Well, gee, I have to pick the Pies here. I as much as I would like to be nice at times, I think we continue our winning ways and we get our 9th win of the season. I'll say it's 16 points. I feel it could be a little bit closer than some expect to be.
What makes you think that about North, though? What gives you that feel?
Well, because this is the first time this year that we're playing someone that we know for sure is below our level. There's always been some question marks and some uncertainty about the sides that we've played so far this year, and I'm just conscious about what we do in terms of either managing some players coming into this game or what that confidence level looks like. I think this is going to give me a really good indication of knowing where the mentality of this side is, because really, if we're going to be a team that contends this year, we should probably be putting you away quite convincingly. But something tells me, and I've been a Collingwood supporter for a long time, I know that nothing comes easy for us. I have a feeling that this will be gritty. This will be the contested game that you want it to be, and that we're going to have to fight a little bit harder to get this win. And I think that's been illustrated at certain points throughout the year in some of our other games. But I'll go to 16 points. I'll be a little bit respectful in that manner.
Okay. Well, you've tipped a closer game than I was going to be honest. Now I feel like a bad North supporter. Look, everyone who listens to the pod knows that I'm not going to just pretend North are going to win all the games. My heart obviously says we can do it with a Finbar goal after the siren to finally get it done. But realistically, I kind of think if it's 4 or 5 goals, I think I'll be happy in this one that we lose by. I mean, I rate the Pies so highly this year, and if we're even in the game, in the fourth quarter, I think that's a big, big win for us. We've got the bye and then West Coast and Freo over in the West as well, which are two games that I'm saying should be wins. Maybe Freo's a 50-50, I think, but I feel like Freo aren't the team we thought they'd be, and we've got a fantastic record over there against them, to be honest. So, yeah, look, I don't think I think the Pies are a big step up on Brisbane, and we drew with Brisbane. I'll say North lose by 4 goals. I'll give us the benefit of the doubt. If it's around the 4 goal mark, I'll be pretty happy. And if we play our game, if we bring you down to our level a bit and make it a bit gross, it'll really confirm to me that we can do that. That's what we're trying to do. And maybe we can go over to the West and do a bit of winning over there, which would be nice. But yeah.
I think the Marvel factor is also something that needs to be taken into account.
We don't play very well at Marvel this year. This is the thing that, a lot of people feel like we play well at Marvel. I think we really struggle to defend the fast track at Marvel. I won't take credit for this opinion. I listened to another North podcast, #Kangaroos. I think it was Jesse on that podcast said that we actually don't look good at Marvel at all. And all of our worst games have been at Marvel. And because we are trying to play that gritty, grind it down to our level sort of game, Marvel doesn't really suit that. And I genuinely think you guys might be better at Marvel because it is such a quick track. And if you can get the ball on the outside, I think you could tear us apart. Because I think we really struggle to defend the fast track. So, yeah, look, I haven't been impressed with us at Marvel at all this year. The Dogs, I guess, in the first round was okay, and obviously the Ds. But since then, I mean, the Carlton game was there, the Swans game was there. Yeah, we maybe just don't seem to deal with it very well. Look, let's hope we turn that around this week. But when Jesse on the other pod said that opinion, I instantly thought, yeah, that's totally right. And over in down in Tassie against the Lions, obviously we gritted it out. Over in Port Adelaide, at their home ground, and now at the MCG, it seems to be our better performances are, seem to be away from home. So, look,
let's hope you're right.
I hope. Well, yeah, yeah. I hope you're right, mate, because I'd love to tear you apart on the outside, but it's probably not going to happen. All right, one more question before we let you go. Who's your favourite player or the deepest, most rogue player you can think of to play for both North Melbourne and Collingwood?
Oh, fantastic question. Okay, I'm going to have to get my thinking cap on.
Because I got a few names, but I want you to throw some out first.
Gee, I'll tell you what. I had some stern words with some Collingwood mates when Daniel Wells went to Collingwood. And that's not against him personally. I just felt like he was absolutely way past it, and I couldn't believe we were even going down that path. Off the top of my head, so Marley Williams is one. That's a bit rogue.
Yep.
That's definitely one. Obviously, Big Sav is definitely one of my favourite players. I'll try and remember him more from his Collingwood times though. Jaden Stevenson, if you want to talk a little bit more recently.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sure there's some real cool rogue ones that I'm definitely.
I'll give you a couple.
All right, go on.
My personal favourite, Lee Brown. Back in the day.
Of course, Lee Brown.
Yes. Levi Greenwood, the snake, Levi Greenwood.
Yeah. Still got Dusty in his pocket.
Yep. I can't pronounce this very well, but Atu
Bozenviglagi.
Whatever it is. Yep. Didn't really do. I don't think he played a game for us, to be fair. And when we do this podcast next year, we can say Braden Maynard.
Yeah, look, I'm hoping that us giving him the captaincy on Saturday against Adelaide was enough to try and entice him.
Yeah.
But yes, I know there's been some rumours around, so hopefully we can sneak him through. You said that. Lee Brown, he's definitely one of my favourite premiership heroes from that 2010
the ultimate
era.
swingman.
What an absolute beast he was.
Look, we might have to wrap it up, but thank you for coming on, mates. Good luck on the weekend. Hopefully not too much good luck. And look, if you're going to win it, just don't tear my heart out, all right?
Oh, we'll do our best. No, thanks for having me, mate. Always great to chat, and good luck for Saturday and for the rest of the season.
Easy, man. Cheers. Thank you so much to Nicholas once again for coming on. Really love those chats every single week. Gave me a little bit more confidence that we might be able to do something against the Pies. I think it's a really interesting point. Like physically, maybe our midfield could get on top, and that might be an area where we could do something in this game. But that is yet to be seen. We'll wait till Saturday night. A few weeks ago, I did say, if you guys are listening on Apple or Spotify or anything like that, if you leave a 5-star review and a comment, I can read it out. I have checked the 5-star reviews, and I'm going to read a couple of them here. So if you are listening on Apple, Spotify doesn't really let you leave a review. It just kind of lets you put 5 stars. So I appreciate that too, but I can't find you guys. A couple I'm going to read out here, then we're going to get into live team reaction. So Cheaper Than Therapy, 5 stars from Owen J. Smurf. Thank you, Josh, for talking us down off the ledge the past few seasons. Must listen for any North fan or just any footy fan who wants to feel better about their own team's performance. In all seriousness, this is a pod by a fan for the fans with a proper shin boner wearing his heart on his sleeve. Good update schedule, great content. Genuinely, that actually made me really, really happy and smile. So thank you so much for that. I'm glad it comes across that way to some people, but yeah, I really, really appreciate that one. Another one here from Rocker Kickdass. Great views and honesty, 5 stars. Josh and co bring great perspective to the club and the games that they're playing. Really, really nice. Thank you so much for that 5-star review. Love the pod, 5 stars from Will.Floz. Love the pod, Josh and Marnie. Thank you, Marnie, for appearing on here as well when she does. Keep up the good work. Lots of thumbs up, a kangaroo, and some different colours of the North Melbourne Guernsey. So thank you so much. If you want to leave me a 5-star review on Apple, please do. I'll read them out. All right, let's get into live team reaction. What am I expecting this week? I'm expecting Bailey Scott to be out. I think that's the obvious one, and Paul Curtis to come back in. I think that's the only change that I would expect. The only other ones I can think of is maybe, do you switch up the forward line a little bit? Cooper Harvey is doing bits in the VFL, but I just get the gut feeling that he's not in favour. Will Phillips is another one. Can we bring a Will Phillips back in? I don't really know where he fits, to be honest. And there's not really anyone else I would drop, especially after the performance on the weekend. So I think for me, let's go Paul Curtis for Bailey Scott. I think that's the obvious one. But who knows? Clarkson always has something up his sleeve. Let's have a look. Okay. Oh, okay. Paul Curtis and Zach Fisher in. Bailey Scott and Zane Dersmer out. Wow, William Hayes in for the Pies. Still side bottom is out. Interesting. And no... what's the I forgot his name. Darcy Moore. No Darcy Moore coming back in. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Paul Curtis in makes a lot of sense. Bailey Scott out makes a lot of sense. Zach Fisher in. Yeah, I don't mind it. Very interested to see where he plays. I heard word that he's been training a little bit with the forwards, but if he's off half back, it would not surprise me as well. Did we lack run off the half back line? I don't know. I think Hardiman and Caleb Daniel have done really, really well. So I know there's been contention about Daniel, but that's all up to each and our own opinions. Interesting. Dersmer, let's talk about Dersmer. That's one actually I think that makes a little bit of sense. We chatted about it on the podcast after the Richmond game, and I just think you've got to be making more of an impact. I don't question his talent, but I'm a little bit worried about Ders. He was playing deeper in the forward line, didn't really impact the game. The times he's played up the ground the last few weeks hasn't drastically impacted the game as well. So, yeah, he's got to find some form and find it quick as well, because he should be in this team by now. I know there's a lot of contention at that position that he plays, Bull and Curtis and whatnot, but I don't know. He's the most talented, arguably, out of all of them with draft position, so we will see. But don't mind that. I don't mind Scott and Dersmer out. Fisher, I maybe would have tried a Will Phil, but then you're looking at maybe having to move a Powell to half back or shuffle things around, which maybe throws out the balance a little bit. The emergencies, Robert Hansen Jr., Will Phillips, and Will Dawson. Would be fun to see Dawson play, but I think Finbar's done enough so far. And Pink, Core, and Comben, I think, are pretty solid down there, to be honest. So I wouldn't be changing any of that. I know Core's had a little bit of, backlash, but I don't think he did much wrong last game. I think there was some very, very soft umpiring, and I would give him a little bit more of a run. How much I've flipped on Aiden Core, now I'm trying to keep him in the side instead of getting him out of the side compared to a few years ago. But hey, that is footy. Will Dawson, would he play back? Would he play forward? Probably forward, but I still don't love that. And Will Phillips, he's probably not going to play because it's Will Phillips, and we don't know why, but yeah. A little bit of Will Phillips news, which we'll talk about after this as well. Looking at the Pies, like I said, their captain, Darcy Moore, is not back in, and Steele Sidebottom out, which is really, really interesting. So, still a much stronger team than us. The other part that I'm looking at here for the Pies is like Membry and Myercheck being their taller forwards. I don't know. We got Pink, Comben, and Core down there. I wonder, Core's obviously going to play smaller, unless we're just going to set Chom free as the interceptor. But, if he drops a mark and that ball hits the ground, it's absolutely terrifying. Elliott, Bobby Hill, those sort of guys are going to, take the piss, basically, which isn't good. So, look, I think the team's okay. I wouldn't make too many more changes. The Pies, I don't know. I'm looking at their whole team now, and it's pretty strong. So that's it for the team reaction, to be honest. I thought there maybe would be a little bit more, but also kind of makes sense because we won a game. So interesting. Let's talk about the Will Phillips news, though. Apparently, West Coast is monitoring the situation with Will Phillips. If he becomes a free agent, he's one of the players that are on the West Coast's list to nab. Would we get much back for Phillips? Probably not. He would, and honestly, if he doesn't really get opportunity, I would probably say to him, take it, mate. To be honest, I don't know. There's a lot of midfielders in here. And to be honest, with Powell picking his form up, Stevens, I know it's a slightly different position, but they all run through that midfield, playing really, really well. He's finding it even tougher than ever to get a run through that midfield, especially with Parker joining and O'Sullivan getting drafted and, playing around a lot of stoppages. Colby obviously now doing a lot of dirty work last week. So, it's just impossible to get him in the lineup, to be honest. I mean, you look at the Pies midfield it's terrifying, but like Perryman and Dacos, you got a couple of Dacoses. I know Josh has been playing off half back more. Pendlebury, these sort of guys. You sort of look at that and go, who's going to put the tag on Dacos? Who's going to put the tag on whoever? And we don't really have anyone there. I know Powell has been like sort of monitoring some players at stoppage, but he definitely hasn't been tagging anybody. So that will be a very, very interesting one. Parker's done that as well for us recently. So that'll be interesting. But Phillips just can't get in the team, to be honest with you. And I don't think maybe we're the right club for him right now. I'd love to see him play. I think he's done well, and I really don't understand why he's been dropped from the games he's been dropped for. But look, I guess it's maybe part and parcel of us improving as a side a little bit. I'm not saying Phil Phillips is a Darcy Tucker or anything like that, but if you guys, who would you have dropped for Will Phillips in the midfield? I know you can drop other positions and shuffle stuff. The only one I would maybe consider is like a Powell, halfback or wing, and you could put Phillips back in there. But from our midfield group right now, after the Richmond game, who would you drop for Phillips if you are a Phillips backer? Please let me know, because I can't see anybody who deserves to get dropped. So I think it's hard for him. But anyway, let's go to tips, and then we can get you guys out of here because there's not really any more news floating around, to be honest. I mean, Harry Sheasel did an interview with Hamish McLaughlin, whatever that show's called. That was pretty fun to watch. He's so well-spoken and talked about a lot of things about like Kane Corns and how much it got to him, and that's good honesty from Shees. And Sonia went on SEN and said Triple M, and we're absolutely beating the Pies. She's guaranteed North Melbourne victory on the weekend. So, yeah, that's exciting stuff, but I mean, that's not news, to be honest with you. So who really cares? Let's tip and get you guys out of here so the podcast isn't too long. Geelong Western Bulldogs. I have tipped Geelong in this one. It's currently, what are we at? 24. So nearly quarter time at the time of recording this. Geelong's 25-15 up. So I think the Bulldogs could get it. I would love to, see Bailey Smith get absolutely smashed. That guy is an absolute creep. Every time he sticks his tongue out, it makes me feel uncomfortable. So I hope Geelong, I kind of hope Geelong lose, but I also tip them, so I kind of hope they win. Essendon and Richmond, such an interesting game. Oh, Bulldogs just kicked a goal too. I think I'll go with the Bombers on this one. I know that it doesn't feel like it in Bomberland, but this one's at night, so no Noah Bolter, and that's massive for them. And I think if I'm reading it correctly here, actually on the AFL website, is Nankervis out? Because maybe Goldstein's going to put on an absolute clinic. Let's have a look here. Bolter, Lynch, and Nankervis out. Wow. Oh, because Lynch got concussed somehow as well. So, my word. That's basically their 3 best players. Okay, the Bombers are gonna win that one. The Bombers will win that one. That's massive outs for the Tigers. Carlton GWS. Did the Bulldogs kick another goal? Hang on, let's have a look at the score here. Wow, 21-25. Bulldogs coming back. Very, very interesting. Carlton GWS. I'm going to go the Blues. The Giants have let me down, to be honest. The Giants are so underwhelming. I had them as my premiership favourite, and they look average. So I'm going to go the Blues just because it's at Marvel. But the Giants lost last week in their home ground as well. So who knows? Hawthorn Brisbane. I'm going to back Brisbane in this one. They need a big win. They need to come back. If they're going to be a premiership threat, they need to win this game. Good game, but the Hawks, I don't like them very much, to be honest. They're still a very good side. So, yeah, I'll go the Lions, but not sure. If the Lions lose this one, it is to the Hawks, so it's not that bad. But if they lose this one, there's questions. No win in 3 weeks, that will be for the Lions, especially. They need to bounce back after that Melbourne game. That was shocking for North Melbourne and for my tips. Collingwood and North... probably Collingwood. I haven't changed my mind, unfortunately. I hope we keep it close, though. What did I say? 4 goals. If we keep it around the 4-goal mark and we really bully them and make it sluggish and just make them work for it, I'm going to be happy because that will give me confidence. We've had 5-6 weeks in a row. We've really been a competitive, dirty team to play against, and I think I like that. Port Adelaide and Fremantle. What a disgusting game of football. I could not care less about this game. I mean, ours is prime time over the top of that because 7:30 Saturday night. That's what North Melbourne do. I don't know if you guys are like this, but sometimes I think about what the teams look like. As an example, Bulldogs and the Bombers, I think their colours mesh well, and it's just a pleasant game to watch on the TV. The Bombers are rubbish. They got absolutely destroyed, which was very funny. But as an aesthetic, I like watching it. I'm trying to think of the Port Guernsey and the Fremantle Guernsey on the same park with each other, and it just makes me want to throw up a little bit. So I will not be tuning into that. That being said, give me Fremantle. Adelaide and West Coast, I mean, it's got to be Adelaide. Please don't let West Coast win another game. Melbourne, Sydney, which is a very interesting one. I'm going to back the Swans, but yeah, imagine if Melbourne get up over that after a fantastic win for them last week. We butted the Lions up for them, though. And another boring game, St Kilda and the Gold Coast. No wonder it's Sunday 4:40. I will go the Gold Coast in that one. You cannot tip the St Kilda after losing to West Coast. So, yeah, gross. Anyway, that will just about do it, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much. Like I said before, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe. Give the video a like and a comment. It means a lot. 5-star reviews always help the pod on Apple and Spotify. TikTok is going off. I'm trying to do a little bit more on TikTok. So follow me over there. And Instagram is always the best place. I'm a little bit slow on the replies to some of the messages. I'm really, really sorry. I work a lot, and sometimes I get home and look at all the messages I've got, and then I'm like, I'll get to it tomorrow, and I do that for about 3 weeks. So, look, I will get to them as soon as possible. I do apologize. Facebook as well. I logged into Facebook a couple of days ago and realized, wow, I have a lot of Facebook messages I have not responded to because I don't use Facebook as much. I use Instagram. So if you want to message me, that's the best way to. Sorry to everyone on Facebook. Thank you so much to you guys for tuning in every single week. It really, really means a lot to me. I know I say this a lot, but, I'm just making this around my full-time job and, don't get much for it at all, but just doing bits for the club and trying to get everyone engaged. And, that, especially the first review I read out on Apple there, those things mean a lot. And that is really nice. I'm the most average bloke ever. And, yeah. Also, last thing, and then we'll get you guys later. Thank you to everyone who came down for the barbershop this week. Really, really cool. Black and Brown Barbershop in Mitcham. Request Josh on the website and you can come and have a chat about North Melbourne, which is really, really exciting. We had about 3 or 4 guys this week. And it's really cool that people want to go out of their way to come and chat to me. So thank you to all those guys who came down. And if you want to come down too, come and get a haircut and talk North. All right, that's it. See you guys soon. We'll be here for the game review. Chat to you then.